We have trouble everywhere, from the economy to our freedom. What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, December the 11th. And of course, we just got back from our big event in Vegas. Well, we didn't get back, we're in Vegas, but we finished our big event in Vegas. And of course, you can hear in my voice the lack of vocal cords I may have left, but we have big troubles. And of course, we just finished off probably one of the worst trades in American history, which I will talk about in my commentary. But markets, are kind of just edgy. Not a lot of action, which we'll get more into our market report. But, there is one thing that is very concerning. That is also the lack of liquidity and the lack of volume, which for this time of year is extremely unusual. But we'll see where we go from here. We do have the Fed this week, the FOMC, and what those idiots will do is anybody's guess. But I think one of the first things we must look at is the inversion of the yield curve. It inverts all the way from 6 months to 30 years. Okay, and that is not a bullish sign. That is a sign of a very dramatic recession or a potential depression on the horizon. Again, if you ask me, and I think if I asked you, we would say that we are already in a recession. And, just because the economist or the government doesn't choose to classify the recession that we have, it doesn't change the fact that we are. But I think, one of the biggest things we continue to just kind of slough off, which I think is a problem, is the continued bailout packages to Ukraine. We are past $20 billion that we have given to Ukraine without doing anything to have an effect on this war. And in fact, many will understand that sometimes, people stay at war for money, okay, and for the things that it brings. But at the end of the day, if we were really serious about ending this war, then our president would have stepped up against Putin and would have taken care of business the correct way with real legitimate sanctions that actually would have worked, okay, instead of the rhetoric of sanctions and the air bubbles of crap that really don't mean anything, which we're never going to stop this war. And of course, so once again, Americans, we get to pay your fair share, if you want to call it fair, of $20 billion. Remember, the government does not pay that. It is paid from our tax dollars, which means you're going to be paying more in taxes. Okay. And of course, household net worth decreased about $500 billion in Q3. Okay, I guess it's funny, or it doesn't sound like a lot when you say it fast. Okay, but it is an enormous amount of cash, and of course, we already understand that most Americans don't have a savings fund or an emergency fund. In fact, many don't have $400 that they can scrape together. Problem, right? How much more bailout and free taxpayer money is the Federal Reserve going to give to the banks? Now, again, I warn you that you're paying for this, okay? You may not think so, but you can bet your ass you are paying for every dime that leaves to go somewhere else. Now, the real scam in this whole deal with the fractional banking, okay, is the fact that banks can borrow from the Federal Reserve, take that loan, and turn it into an asset, and then lend out at 10 to 1. So again, in the continuation of the effort to devalue our currency by printing more dollars. Now again, I these are not my opinion, these are facts. Okay. My opinion will come later in my commentary, but this is fact. Okay. So again, remember, you've got job losses have topped over 2 million, but yet we talk about how great the monthly jobs numbers are. I just think that, it becomes very problematic when we continue to duck and cover or hide from these potential problems that don't have to be there. And I think this is something that is even more important to understand. Okay, that interest rates are going higher, so Americans' living is going to be much tougher. The ability to buy a new home or sell an old home is going to be much more of a challenge. The cost of doing everything is going to be much higher. Farmers are going to have trouble with these higher interest rates because they're not making enough money now with the low prices in the grain markets. So yet we continue to make the same mistake over and over again. And of course, you now see that in this year that 9 million millennials have moved back home because they can't make enough money on their own. And, these are just one problem after another between the Ponzi scheme of FTX, which, of course, doesn't make a ton of sense when you hear that Maxine Waters confirms that Sam Bankman-Fried, or whatever the hell his name is, will be testifying virtually. Now, why is it that because the money that he stole was given into the election for the Democratic Party, does he get the benefit of being able to testify virtually versus being there? It goes back to when Paul Pelosi supposedly was robbed or beaten at home, and obviously there's a lot of rumors, and we're not going to get the rumors. But why wasn't the mugshot released? We always see that we live in a two-way society. One treatment for politicians and what they want, and one treatment for the citizens of the United States of America. Okay, so again, as I say, you continue to see freedom being stripped bit by bit, piece by piece, and for what reason? That would be my concern. And of course, now, as we're learning more about climate change, our president has decided to make very strict mandates on the Pentagon, even though we have found that many of the areas in which they talk about climate change are flawed. And maybe I have been right all along with saying that I'm not a big believer in the climate change environment, okay? But yet they're making these ridiculous mandates and restrictions, which remember, once again, who gets to pay for all that? Well, of course we do, okay? We pay for everything, all right? And these are just little problems that continue to mount that we continue to ignore for whatever reason. And, between high interest rates, behind the job losses and everything else going on, of course, now what you're finding out is that when you go to the gun shop, okay, you cannot necessarily use a credit card because credit card companies are starting to restrict your purchases. Now, if you get a gun legitimately, you have to go through all of the factors to get approved. And when you buy it, you can't just walk out the store. It has to be whatever the window is, 24 to 72 hours of waiting. So why are the credit card companies now getting involved in making restrictions, okay, on gun purchases for those who are purchasing them legally? Okay, again, I'm not talking about the nuts that purchase them illegally. I'm not talking about the criminal. I'm talking about a tax-paying citizen who goes into a gun shop. So now the gun shop owner can't sell it, so it hurts his revenue, and the person wanting to buy it can't buy it. Now, again, this is as we go to the shadow banning on Twitter. Okay, that is now all coming out from the last election, and certainly not the first. So not only are we losing our First Amendment right, we are now on the verge of losing our Second Amendment right. And again, you may be against guns, you may be against whatever, but at the end of the day, what you're really not, the picture you're not seeing is the stripping of Americans' freedom, piece by piece, bit by bit. And shame on all of you who want to see our freedom totally stripped away so that we can be another China, another communist or socialist country for no reason, and not be the greatest country in the world if we allow this to happen. So either you believe that the United States of America is the greatest country in America, which I believe. Okay, I know that we have our flaws. I know that we have given up some of that greatness, but we certainly can regain it if we would get off our ass and quit allowing this administration, particularly, of stripping us of freedoms one right at a time. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Todd Bubba Horowitz. It is Sunday, December 11th. We're going to step out here for a break, and we'll be right back with our market report after the break with more Bubba's Bottom Line. What up, kids? Well, we had a great time in Vegas. I am exhausted, but we did tape the entire event, so it is for sale. If you would like to purchase the entire 3-day event, certainly you are welcome to do so. And once again, we paid for our trip with our day trading while we were there, so that was always good. But again, remember our partners and our brokerage partners, and of course, for equities and options, it's Trade Your Brokerage, and there ain't nobody better. $10 a month, people were like, their mouths were dropping when I was showing them that they were saving thousands of dollars a year, okay, by using Trader. And of course, those who do use Trader get the opportunity to automate their trading, which is always a good thing. So you don't have to deal with it or worry about it. And of course, in our equity portfolios, it's free, part of your membership. And our hedging, there's a licensing fee for the software. But, it's try.trader.com/Bubba. You can see their link on the side. And of course, for equity, for futures and commodities, there's nothing like Capital Trading Group. They're by far the best in the business. Okay, and I said this at my show, and I'm gonna tell you, look, I don't care who you go to for your brokers, but if you're gonna trade futures, make sure you have a futures broker. And you trade options, you have an options broker. They don't do well in coexisting, okay? Because you don't want facilitators, you want people that specialize in what you're trying to trade. And of course, it's Capital Trading Group, info at capitaltradinggroup.com/Bubba. Also scrolling on the side, and of course, our high school program. Check it out at patreon.com/Bubba Trading. In the meantime, let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line with me, Todd Bubba Horowitz, and of course, our market update. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, the 11th of December, and of course, we are just back from our grueling 3 days of solid teaching, but the markets are kind of like on that edge, getting ready to, I think, get pushed off. We're not really getting the Santa Claus rally that we often do see this time of year, and I think, again, I don't predict what markets are going to do, but certainly I can look at the picture, and between the lack of liquidity and the lack of volume, it's pretty ugly. Now, when you look at the chart, you'll see that the markets are really just pretty much in a consolidation pattern, okay? But they are getting closer to a potential reversal to the other side. We remain long across the board, and certainly know that a reversal is very close and very, very definitely probably coming. And I certainly would love to be short going into the new year based on what I'm watching, but of course I will not fight it. But in the meantime, so we are long the 4 major indexes, Dow, S&P, NASDAQ, and Russell. Crude oil continues to get popped. It's interesting, and I guess we're trying to keep it down so that the United States can refill their strategic petroleum reserve. In the meantime, we remain short crude, and it's down into the 71 level. Now, again, I still have a personal belief that it will be going to all-time highs before this is all said and done. In the natural gas, the other part of energy, we are short. And natural gas has been coming down, gradually. It's working its way lower, but it had a little bit of a pop. But again, it looks like it wants to go also significantly lower. The dollar, we continue to be short, and the dollar has, lost some of its luster meantime. And the euro currency, which we are long, continues to try to rise. Now, again, my original call on the dollar, on the euro currency of 88 cents stands. It may not be tomorrow. Again, I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but I'm telling you it's going to happen. Bitcoin has had a nice little pop. Again, we're still short it, but I do believe in this space, and I do think that it's going higher. It doesn't mean it won't go lower first. You're seeing a lot of these things obviously with the FTX and with some of the others, but I do believe that over time we're going to find out that the cryptocurrency world is going to be a great spot for part of your portfolios. So we'll see what goes on there. And of course, the metals, they're higher, but they're kind of just chirping again. They just don't. They look like they were going to make a big run, and now they're just kind of stalled. Okay. Now again, I don't say that we can't go higher, and we are long. And listen, as you know, I am a long-term believer in the precious metals, and I do believe that everybody should own some. So of course, I'm telling you that. But again, from a short-term trading standpoint, we'll see. Okay, copper has moved higher, and we're long. And in the grain markets, grains are in trouble. It's interesting. We had WASDA on Friday. Markets didn't move, maybe a little bit lower, but not much. For whatever reason, the markets, are being held down with a lot of pressure. Now, I would make my comments to that would be that the big funds that have the dough, because of the lack of liquidity, because of the lack of volume, are pressuring these because they're trying to buy them. Now, we'll see if that turns out to be the case, because I do think that 2023 is going to be a boom time in commodities. In the meantime, in the meats, live cattle or fat cattle were short, but it looks a little higher. I think that the cattle and hog markets themselves are really just in ranges trading, and they'll go up when oil goes down and down when oil goes up. But feeder cattle, we are long, and hogs were short. So we'll see. And I think, did I give you the grains? The grains were short corn, we're short wheat, and we're long beans. Okay. In the soft commodities, cocoa, we had a lower week, we're short. Cotton had a little bit of a higher week, we're short also, Sugar, we're short. OJ, we're short. And coffee, we are long, and coffee's gotten clobbered, but it did trigger a signal. But again, I think that from a trader standpoint, this Friday is the end of the year, the 16th. Now again, it doesn't mean that it will be, but that's the way that traders look at it. You got the FOMC this week. Are they going to do anything? It wouldn't surprise me if they held back a little bit until after the first year, but we'll see. They can do anything. They can do anything. Nobody knows. That's the problem when you're dealing with imbeciles. In the meantime, we're going to step out of here for our final break, and we'll come back with, of course, my commentary and my football picks. Bubba's Bottom Line, Top Bubba Horowitz will be right back. Well, kids, again, without going through it all, just remember our brokerage partners. And remember, I do have other brokers, but Tradier, Capital Trading Group, CTG, and of course our high school program. The brokers are scrolling on the side, their websites and links. And again, I'm vetting them. I use them myself. Okay. And on the bottom, of course, is the high school program. In the meantime, as you know, each and every week I give you my commentary. So let me welcome you back to my commentary. And of course, this week we know that, or this past week, that we traded the Merchant of Death for an a WNBA star that has shown her disdain and hatred for America, while a Marine still sits in prison. Okay, so we exchanged a killer for somebody who hates our country. Okay, and why did we do that? I have no idea. As far as I'm concerned, she broke the law in that country. Okay, she hates America to begin with. and if it was part of a bigger swap and she was a throw-in trade, I could live with it. But I can't live with it when some of our personnel, military personnel, are sitting over there. But the outrage in this country to free the athlete that hates this country, okay, and that has shown nothing but disdain for the United States of America and nothing but disrespect for our flag, our service people, and this country. I think it was a horrible trade to trade the merchant of death back to Russia. Okay. And of course, if you were a baseball fan, I think this trade is worse than Lou Brock from the Cubs for Ernie Broglio from the Cardinals. To me, this was a horrible trade without freeing some of our military personnel to free an athlete that has nothing but disdain for this country. But in the meantime, on a brighter subject, okay, our football for this week, a tough card, but we will take the Minnesota Vikings as an underdog against the Detroit Lions. We will take the Jacksonville Jaguars as an underdog against the Tennessee Titans. And that will do it until we get back for Monday Night Football. Have a great week, everybody. Great to be with you. And of course, we're getting closer to Christmas. Make sure you take care of yourself for the holiday season. And we will see you back here tomorrow with the Bubba's Daily Update. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you later.